record this. Okay. Okay. So finances are something that's, I feel, very important. And so we're just going to ask the very real question, where are you now? And I'm going to figure out how to go back. Okay. So financial literacy, it's not taught in schools. It's not taught in many homes. I think the system is almost rigged in a way to keep people poor. And I would just love for other people to experience the success, the ability to have freedom so that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. I mean, whether it's to go and dig wells in Africa or to live at the beach and collect seashells every day, that's your prerogative. But I would love for all of us to be able to be free. And that's my personal goal. And we'll just go ahead and get started. So, of course, with anything, we're going to start with where are you now? And we're talking about financially. There's several of us here at the Grounds and Vine in Kannapolis, which is a great place. If you haven't been, come out. But financially, where are you now? Do you have outstanding credit card debt? Unsecured debt is debt that's not tied to a particular asset. So if you don't pay it, they're not going to come and get it, right? So secured debt would be a house payment, a car payment, something like that. Unsecured debt is, maybe you could flip so you can see. Do you have any unsecured debt? I was at a place in my low 20s. I was Miles's age, and I had about $25,000 in unsecured debt, and my annual salary was about $30,000. Not a great situation, right? Not a place that you want to be. Credit cards are a great tool if you can exercise restraint, but they should be paid off every single month. You should not use a credit card unless you plan to pay it off every single month. Now, I actually have learned that I can get paid by the credit card companies to use their service. So we put all of our monthly obligations, groceries, gas, bills, we put everything on a credit card that pays us points. I get to keep my money for an extra month. I pay that card off at the end of whenever the bill comes in, and then they accumulate points, and I'm getting hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars back from the credit card company every year. Whereas in the past, I was making minimum payments and paying them, and that's why they were posting billion-dollar quarterly earnings, and I was getting broker and broker. So if you have student loans, they should be paid off as soon as possible. My wife is grateful that we finally paid off her student loans. Now, you guys know going to medical school is $250,000, $500,000. And I had always told Heather, my wife, why would we pay that off? Why would we pay that off early when we can, because it's such low interest, you know? And she finally helped me to realize, even though it was only 2 or 2.5% interest, it was still $500, $600, $700 a month in interest. And when that light bulb finally came on a couple of years ago, we paid that off. And guess what? We don't have 2 house payments anymore for our 1 house. It's kind of nice to not have that obligation. So any open lines of credit, anything that you have that is an unsecured debt, just pay it off. Brandon.
Yeah, so I'll just say a few things that we're doing this year. Last year we did. We filed separately because of right now with COVID, all of the, they put on forbearance. And so what we're trying to do right now is they're starting to call us on the student loan debt. And my wife would too. So it's not cheap. And it's getting to be like over a housing payment a month because they see what I'm making as income and they're lobbing that on her, even though, it's just the way they look at it. So we filed separately the purpose of it and giving her all the children and all that kind of thing, so it makes her look like she's poor, and to keep the payments down. And now that she's in a private practice, we're not going to be able to take care of some of the grants and his loan forgiveness. So that's another thing you can look at, but that's what we're doing to try to, especially with the weird time we're in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So if any of you guys have any challenges, you have debt that you don't know how to get rid of, let's talk. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have some experience. So if you have anything out there, pay it off and make it your primary objective. So do you have an emergency savings? Now, experts would recommend, and Tim would, I'm sure, know all about this, but it's recommended that we would have 6 months of reserve. So if your income stopped tomorrow, if you stopped working, if no one in your house was working, no more money came in for 6 months, would you be able to meet all of your current obligations? You're able to put gas in your car, pay your car insurance, pay your mortgage, pay your rent, whatever it is, school tuition for your kids, without tapping your retirement, without asking mom or dad for help. Have anybody else had to ask mom or dad for help before? That was like my 20s. Like I had moved out, but I hadn't really moved out, without selling your home, without changing anything about your current lifestyle. Would you be good for 6 months? And if you're not there, that's okay. Not everybody is. Actually, most people aren't, but it's a goal that we should have. So if you don't have 4 to 6 months of reserve income, let's sit down and develop a plan for anybody who wants to. Let's develop a plan on how you can achieve that. Now, in addition to unsecured debt, there's also secured debt. There's car payments, boat, motorcycle, obviously your house. So is anybody here, just curious, anybody here completely and totally debt free? Miles just bought a house.
You say debt free without mortgage, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think we're about 5,000 or 6,000. And my wife's gonna credit card. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's my dream, right? I want to get to a place where I'm completely and totally debt free so that I can be free, because I want to be able to walk on the beach. I want to be able to go start an orphanage in Ukraine. You're just in time to help us with appetizers. So the purpose of this is to, the purpose of this is to get to a place that we're free. It's going to be really a quick presentation if you guys don't share. Thanks, Lila. So I personally, we're not there. We still have our primary mortgage, but that's our only outstanding debt right now. We have the house that we live in, and it's because of that my wife's able to quit her job, and that was a goal for us personally. So the next thing that we want to talk about, we talked about where we are now financially, talked about debt, different things. Next is, where are you going? So what is your goal? And everybody's goal is going to look different. Certainly, probably Miles being just starting off with a new family, just buying a first house. So Miles, you have it so much better together than I did at that age, or even when I was 10 years older than you are now. Like, I'm so excited about your future and where you're going. So good job, man. But obviously, Miles, your 5-year plan is going to be different from mine. Tim, your 5-year plan is going to be different from mine, probably. Maybe. But I'm at the point now, like in 5 years, I want to be able to retire. I'd love to buy habitational and spending the winter in Naples or somewhere like that. It was lovely down there. I fell in love down there. Can I continue to be a North Carolina broker if I move to Florida?
It's not the same. The humidity is much worse there.
I don't want to be there during the summer. I just October was really nice. So do you plan to keep working until you drop? Until you die? Are you on track to meet your goals? So, I mean, does anybody want to share what their goals are?
I'll participate.
Thanks, Brandon.
So I'll participate. So I was telling Augusta earlier today, just some of the goals I've set with my coach. That's, by the way, coming November 18th. If you haven't got signed up, you need to sign up today. Go to North Carolina because we only have so many seats that we can get at the club. Business coaching. I mean, we're bringing him in $1,000 to coach a group of agents. It's going to be cross lines. So bring other realtor friends. But when I met with him last, I guess, June, July, one of my goals was when the twins turned 21. That's when they hit that time of, for disability and all that, that we wanted to have enough income coming through real estate and passive income through, real estate rentals or VRBOs or what have you. So when they turn 21, we want to be able to say we have the same income without her having her to work at all. So that's, we're tracking right now. We've got her closer to move to Concord. We'll start in January. It'll help out. And like I said, we only have a little bit of debt. It's really swimming, all these little small things. So, but yeah, that's our goal. So I don't know what that is, how many years that is out. But they are 9. So what, 11, 12 years? So that's, you got to get it, and that's getting the income numbers we're making right now, which is, we want to make, we'll live nicely and, pull in 200 grand a year, net. So that's the goal.
Okay. Thanks, Brandon. I'll, for me personally, I want to be retired, by the age of 50. I got about a little over 3 years to go. I don't want to retire, but I want to be totally free. I don't want to have to sell houses. When I say retire, I mean, I don't want to have to sell houses. And so I'll be 47 in January, just in 2 months. Got 3 years to get the residual income up to a place. And I love that you mentioned residual income, because that means I'm getting paid whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm collecting seashells, whatever I'm doing. Right. Anybody else want to share?
I'm not sure they can hear me.
So like, that was full of
Biting me too.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. We got a little. We had a bug on the table. Anyway.
It's a conversation for us, man.
That would ruin it. I'd have ruined everything.
So my 5-year goal is to. So I just bought my first house. The plan is to live in it for a couple of years, do a little bit more renovations to it, and then have that as rental property. In 5 years, I would love to have 3 rental properties at that time, and be living in our basically our long-term home, while our rental properties are basically paying for our mortgage that we live in. I feel like once you kind of get the biggest payment per month typically is your mortgage, and if you can get that covered, man, you're living good right there. Like that's always the biggest expense for every American. So that's the first thing I wanted to get taken care of. So by then I can be able to have that 4 to 6 month emergency fund. That's kind of my goal right now, is to get to that point. That was already the thing I wanted to do when I bought this house I just did. And I already have I'm already 3 months ahead as of right now. So I want to make sure I can just keep making that gap even more, to make sure that I never have to worry about, how to make money the next, or never have to worry about my next check.
That's right.
To pay bills.
Thank you, Miles. Anybody online want to share? So, I mean, maybe it's a beach house, maybe it's a mountain house. Maybe. You going to retire in 3 years?
3 years.
I'm 67.
We have the same goal.
Retired 3 years. I got 20 years on you. Got 20 years.
Well, I'm playing catch up too, because I mean, literally 14 years ago, I was living in a rented house in the, I won't say ghetto. It was in the hood though. I mean, it was on the bus route in Salisbury, about halfway between the homeless shelter and the projects.
So how when we get to talking about that, David, I'd like to hear, kind of strategy. How do you get there? What are you doing right now to get to that goal? So you want to share? Yeah. Selling houses. Okay.
So my wife's retired, and we have already retirement income in place. But I'm not where I want to be, so that 3 years is out there. To get rid of the rest of the debt that I have, not my wife. Be free roaming, like you said. Do what I want to do. What I want to do. Yeah, I still want to work. I'm not going to sit there.
Right.
Real estate's the perfect. I will say this: any investment portfolio, you need to diversify. You may need to diversify outside of real estate. Real estate can go bad. Look at 2008. I was property manager in Greenwood, South Carolina. We had a property managers association of all people that own rental homes in Greenwood, South Carolina. There were probably 3,000 properties represented. 2008, the president of the association gets up and says, how many people today are receiving checks, bad checks from the rent? All the hands in the room goes up. Okay. The next question was, how many of you do you think you can collect on those checks? No hands. So you're sitting there with a ton of debt on these properties unless they're paid for. You're going to be touched heavy mortgage payments. You really can't put leverage in real estate. People can't pay the rent.
Diversification is definitely key. Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Go ahead, Kenitha.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm not raising my hand though, but I don't know what's going on with that.
Can y'all hear her?
I haven't heard it. I can now. Go ahead.
I don't know why it keeps saying I'm raising my hand because I didn't raise my hand.
You raised your hand now.
I did. I promise you I did.
You raised your hand. You got to talk now.
And I was really hoping to hear about Kenitha's dreams.
I'm still figuring that out myself. I'm trying to figure it out myself.
All right, got it. She's on mute now.
Thank you for sharing. So when we talk about where you're going, sorry, this thing is, what is your exit strategy? Where are you trying to go, right? Some of us have shared where we're trying to go. Well, how do we get there? And one thing is to keep a P&L. So somebody raise your hand. Somebody tell us what a P&L is.
I don't do a very good job.
Brandon, don't roll your eyes. Yeah, profit and loss. You need to know, how much money you're making and how much money you're spending. That's really all it is. How much is coming in, how much is going out.
You're supposed to do that like monthly or quarterly. That's where I fail at it.
Well, I mean, and some people have that CPA mindset. Some people are all about bookkeeping and balancing checkbook. I have not. I haven't balanced a checkbook in 25 years. That's not me. I look at my balance, right? I'm like, okay, I got a certain number in there, and we're good. Okay. And I also don't go out and spend stuff. I learned hard way. Like I don't need it. Well, I thought I was.
I might like to spend.
You and I earlier incorporating, if you had incorporated your real estate business for tax purposes a long time ago. I just did mine in January as an S corporation. Totally different thing. Find myself doing better. This feels more like I'm a business. Drive and build a business.
Yeah.
Just looking at both sides of the.
Yeah. That's great. Well, so we're going to keep a profit and loss. Tim, thank you for sharing. And this is groundbreaking. I mean, I know you guys have already read the screen, and this is going to really just blow your minds, but spend less and make more money, right? Those are the two keys to really seeing good things happen on a profit and loss. You want to see positive numbers on the bottom right hand corner of that. And if anybody needs profit and loss, any of these forms, I can email you. Just send me an email, and I can put these in your hands. I personally use QuickBooks because I'm not a bookkeeping type person. I pay somebody $100 a month to go in there and categorize stuff for me, and it's one of the best investments that I've made. And I can go in at any point. I know how to run a report, and I go in and I push a report, and it will tell me how much I've made and how much I've spent for my business, and that's invaluable. And it's even it helps my wife sleep at night too. So we got some chat. Okay, I'll send it to you. Lindsay, I use my neighbor Carrie, but I can see if she's interested in helping you with that. What were you saying, Tim?
Do that in the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah, so it integrates with my checking and credit card and everything, and she just goes in and she moves stuff around and makes sure. And then the best part is, in the past, when it was time, like April 14th, when it's time to start working on my taxes, I wouldn't sleep that night because I'd be on TurboTax or whatever, and I'm trying to find my receipts from last year and all this stuff. Now it's all done, and so on January 7th or whatever, I can just hit a button and I print that off or email it, download it, and send it to the CPA. So
So I'll mention one thing that I learned as a mistake when I first got involved. I had first start out as a self-employed person. You'll have you'll have your own social security number, and so you can set up a business checking account and then have a personal checking if you want to have a business checking to help with those expenses and tracking those things. And you want to separate them, but when you incorporate like Tim did, you have to you're creating an identity, and you will have to have a separate EIN number, which I didn't. My attorney didn't set that up for me, and then I was having to uncover at least a year or two worth of problems to get that fixed. So,
yeah,
and they typically say, as it relates to when you should incorporate, it makes sense once you hit that 100,000, around that 100,000 net goal, because then that's where it saves you on taxes.
you're talking about slide number 12 now.
Oh, I'm getting ahead, but just don't make that mistake. It's a separate EIN number from your Social Security, and you've got to make that jump. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. So keep a P&L, spend less, make more. Then you can save your money. You get that savings built up, then you can start investing, and that's going to be fab. So it's important that we start thinking like entrepreneurs, because we are business owners. We're all independent contractors. We're all 1099, just like any other business owner. And if we treat ourselves as business owners, we're only going to be as good as what we know. I mean, you can get lucky, but it's hard to sustain luck, So educate yourself. Get Audible. I pay $18 a month I get one Audible book every month. I've got a library of probably it's right at 100 books now, and that's been my financial education is learning from people who have been very successful. You You can like Elon Musk or not. Dude's worth about $250 billion right now because of Tesla stock. You can say Tesla's overvalued or it's not. It doesn't matter. I can learn a lot from him, whether I agree with all of his decisions and his lifestyle or not. But there are also lots of people who I do personally agree with. I mean, Gary Keller wrote a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is phenomenal. And you can actually, listen to that. There's a book by Tim and Julie Harris called Harris Rules. They are some of the most successful real estate coaches in the country, probably in the world, and would definitely recommend anything that they do. They also have a daily podcast. One of my favorite podcasts is Tim and Julie Harris with the Real Estate Coaching Radio. Now, I will warn you, they are EXP agents and they do like to recruit using their podcast. But the content, I mean, they offer coaching as well, and it's really, really good material. They interviewed on their podcast recently a guy named Peter Schiff, who I'd heard the name, but I wasn't really sure who he was. I don't really follow. I'm not too big into politics. But this guy, I don't know, he had done something with politics. But he has a daily podcast, and I've started listening to him, and he talks all about finances and what's going on with the economy and different things like that. And it's important for me to know. You talked about diversification earlier, Tim did. I'm educating myself. It's important for us to educate ourselves. So always going on. If you prefer video, there's this thing called YouTube. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it, but there's like literally millions of free videos that you can watch. And there's tons of great content out there. What's that? Yes, sir. It's on the internet. You can just type it in just like that. Capital Y, capital T. Just kidding. So, and then once you've achieved, you get into this place that you have 6 months saved and you're going to be okay for a while, start investing. Now, there's a number of different ways to invest in real estate without.
Sorry, the bug.
Oh, the bug is back.
Oh, it's right there. He's all right. He's all right.
Yeah, he's fine. He wants to go home with me. He wants to meet Ralphie.
No hitchhikers.
Lila ordered a volcano to drink. So
What I do.
there are a number of ways to invest in real estate without having any money. There's this thing. Thank you, Brandon. There's wholesaling, and if you guys aren't aware of wholesaling, it's where you find an off-market property and then you flip the contract. I was on a listing appointment last week, and I was thinking to myself, these people need to sell their home very quickly, and they're going to be a nightmare to deal with. Has anybody ever, have you ever gone on a listing appointment or had a buyer that you're just like, I can't wait till this transaction's over?
Oh, I've had a few.
Like you get that, you're sitting at the kitchen table talking with these people and you're thinking, like, I can already hear my phone ringing about the complaints that I'm going to be getting when buyer's agents come through and they don't take off their shoes or they don't wear a mask or whatever. Like I can see it coming. And I was thinking, like, I really don't want to represent these people, but I don't want to miss out on a paycheck, And so, and the house needed a little bit of work and they didn't really have the money or the time to put in to get the house ready for the market. And so I said, if somebody was to bring you cash, now let's say your house is worth, if you paint it, we could sell it for $300. As it is right now, I think we could probably get $275. But if somebody was to come to you and say, give you cash, we'll close in 3 weeks, and I'll pay you $250, would that be appealing? And a husband and wife looked at each other and they were like, yes, that would be great. We wouldn't have to deal with showings. We wouldn't have to paint it. We wouldn't have to mow the lawn or move or pack anything or stage it, do any of that stuff. We could just sell it off market. And I said, okay, great. And then I left there and I called up a friend of mine and said, hey, can I borrow $250,000 for about 30 minutes one day next month? He said, sure. for $10,000 or whatever his interest rate is, and we could do a double closing. So what I could do is take that house, once I have it under contract, I make them an offer to purchase, and then we put it, I find a buyer for it, which is pretty easy on a $250,000, $300,000 house. Say, hey, I'll sell you this house for $275,000. We go to Candace Shepard's office. We do a double closing. I buy it at 10 a.m. for $250,000. The buyer buys it for $275,000. They're happy. They just walked in with $25,000 in equity. The seller's happy. I'm happy. I pay my friend back his his $250,000 plus his $10,000 or whatever, and I made $15,000, which is about what I would have made had I listed it. And everybody wins, right? So that's wholesaling. So you can invest without actually having money. You don't have to have money to wholesale. That's how a lot of real estate investors get going. But you can also buy dividend-paying stocks. You buy stocks like Nucor or others, and I'm not FINRA registered. I'm not giving financial advice. But if you buy stocks that pay you a dividend, like CIC Title, when it starts growing and getting building profit, we're going to get a residual quarterly income from that. You could also open an IRA or a Roth IRA. You can even get a self-directed IRA. So if you've got a bunch of money in your retirement account, you could go out there, companies out there. I'm not selling this, but there are companies out there where you can have a self-directed IRA. And like my friend who is funding this deal potentially for me, he's taking his money out of a retirement account, and his financial advisor has said, and again, get your own advice, talk to a financial advisor. I have one if you need one, but his financial advisor told him that if he took the money out, as long as he puts it back in within 60 days, he's good. So he's got access to a retirement account where he can take the money out, flip a house, and put it back in within 60 days, and there's no consequences for that. So you can invest in real estate. I highly recommend buying residential properties and renting them out. Right now, all of the homes are flying off the market. I was talking to a friend last night who, a friend of his just bought a $151,000 condo in Myrtle Beach. I'm like, how did she do that? Well, it was a rental and there's 6 months left on the lease. Like, that's the only property that people aren't fighting over right now. So buy some residential real estate. We just listed one in Rock Hill. It was a triplex for $170,000, whatever we had it listed at. It was generating $1,750 a month in rent for these 2 one-bedroom units and one two. So I mean, if you could take $160,000 and invest that in an asset that's appreciating, and then have $1,750 a month in rental income, like, even if you were to get a mortgage, you're clearing $800 a month on it. That's a no-brainer. You get 10 of those, and boom, you're retired. Yep. Yeah.
I'll mention also, I was watching a podcast this past week. It's called the BRRR method, and it stands for buy, remodel, rent, refinance, and repeat. And it's the idea of the ability, like David was talking about. I'm not there. I'm not pre-approved. And don't let this bother you in the sense that there are still deals in this market, whether they're off market or even on the MLS. I looked at a house yesterday, and an agent basically do a video walkthrough. It's her listing, and I finally decided to buy it, but it's only $160,000 in built, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. That's going for $125 a night right now on vacation rental by owner. And you'll have to, base management fees and such like that in it. But so that's a Hilton, and that's a highly sought market. Not sure if they had to cover flood insurance, but you got to figure out what you're going to net, not just what you're going to gross. But we're looking in Boone right now. My daughter trying to take advantage of some things, help her credit as well as just bring in income and use the resources that you have. So if you got college age kids, look at the North Carolina housing allowance, make them a primary residence. If they have any kind of special areas of credit, that's a great way to get started. Also, I would want to mention, and at the end, David, I'll have a screen. We have a CPA coming on December 14th, and then next week we have a person with Ameritrade that you talk about, somebody that can give you investment advice. She has a house in Boone right now. So it's probably a $600,000-700,000 house, and she's got a townhome in Huntersville. And so she's going to be giving advice. We'll have that at the Cabarrus Center. So next week, 11:30. So I'll shoot at the very end. I'll show you the schedule. But that's a person that does have the know-how, and that'll be next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. So that's really all that I wanted to talk about financing. But just to give it the very nuts and bolts, I highly recommend the following rules to live by for all real estate agents, and this really goes for all independent business owners, is to form an LLC. It's a couple $100. You can go online to Secretary of State, North Carolina, or whatever state you're in. I think it's sosnc.gov, but if you Google it, it'll pop right up. Form an LLC. You can fill out the paperwork yourself. You don't have to hire an attorney to do this. It's a couple $100. It's a couple $100 a year to keep it open. Now, if you guys are part-time, you're only planning on selling 2, 3, 4 homes a year, 6 homes a year, you probably don't need to go through all this. I think if you're doing 6 or more homes a year, it's probably worthwhile to go ahead and do this, especially for tax and planning purposes. But form an LLC. It takes a couple of days to get the paperwork processed and approved. You'll get an email with your approved paperwork, and then you can do as Brandon was saying earlier, get an IRA. That should be IRS EIN. Go to irs.gov. Just Google it. You can find it. It's free to get an EIN. Basically, that's a social security number for your business, so you can keep those two separate. And you need that in order to open your checking and savings accounts. Now, I highly recommend that when you sell your first house or your next house, if you haven't done that already, you should have a business checking and a business savings account. When you sell a house and you have that commission check come in, take 20%, and you should really talk to your CPA and ask, but at least 20% goes straight into savings, and it stays there until you pay your taxes. Okay, that's my personal advice. Some people might want to take that 20% out and invest it. If you do that, great, but do it in a safe way so you don't lose it. You're not going to get stuck trying to figure out how you're going to pay your taxes come next year. And then get a business credit card. Highly recommend Visa, because there are a lot of places. I used to use a American Express card when I first got in real estate and I was flipping houses. I went to Lowe's. They gave me the American Express Lowe's card, and you get 5% off of purchases at Lowe's, and that worked out well for me. But when I would take my team out to dinner or something like that, a lot of restaurants don't take Amex. There's even some places that don't take MasterCard. So for me, I recommend getting Visa because it's pretty much universally accepted. And that way, anytime I have a business expense like today, I'm putting it on my business card. Okay. And again, I'm paying it off every single month. And then I get to use those points whenever I want. I build up points. I can usually every quarter or so, I can get $100 or $200 in gift cards from the credit card company. So they're paying me to, and then I use that to order shirts and different things like that, right? So I'm not spending my own money on this. What's that? I use Chase. I have a Chase Ink and a Chase Sapphire, one for personal and one for business. I don't recommend Chase, but we've been with them. I used Capital One in the past, and they made me mad. What's that? Yeah, and there are different cards that have different amounts of points, but mean, for our personal stuff, like all of our charitables, everything goes on our personal credit card. For business, everything goes on the business card. I mean, and you can, I mean, when we flew a family of 6, we went to Utah. We flew into Utah and rented a car and drove up to Yellowstone and 10-day family vacation out west and did Yellowstone and all that stuff in June. 4 of our, I think, 4 of our airline tickets were paid for in points. So I only had to buy 2 tickets out of the 6, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I did with like our house and stuff, like all the furniture, any construction work, stuff, materials we had to buy, I put it all on my credit card and it's paid off immediately whenever it hit because I mean it's free money.
Yeah. It's free money. So I mean, if you have your money in an interest-bearing checking account, you can collect interest on your money for an additional month. You know, so it makes a lot of sense. Anybody have any questions or comments? Please share.
I'll speak on the S corp. The difference between the S corp and the LLC is the advantage of using